Ever witnessed someone so fast on track you doubt you could ever be on their level? The mission of Advanced Motorsports is to demonstrate the speed is achievable for everyone. With the expertise of some of the best sim drivers in North America, we are set to release free content on social media and comprehensive guides on our website. For those seeking the ultimate experience, our Advanced Motorsport Institute and personalized coaching sessions are the way to go. No matter your level of experience, we invite you to follow us on our social media to learn to be fast.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Hello everybody and welcome to Road America. It's time for GT3 racing in the Precision Racing League. This weekend we continue our tour through the Americas. It's our third time over in the Western Hemisphere in 3 weeks after starting our season at Interlagos, Watkins Glen 1 week ago, and now Road America for round 3. Hello everybody, welcome to RaceSpotTV. My name is Jude Leary. I'm alongside Dylan Coyle for this round of the championship, and first up it's the Fixed Series. Dylan, it's the America's National Park of High Speed, or something like that, as Arjuna calls it. It's an iconic racetrack around the world, and hopefully it's going to provide some great GT3 action for us tonight.
Road America is certainly one of the best racetracks in America, and in my opinion, one of the most underutilized on an international scale. I wish NASCAR still went there, but unfortunately that is not in the cards, at least for this season. It's a beautiful track with a big set of 14 corners. Let's take a look at the schedule so far. Interlagos opened the season with Watkins Glen following it. Jim Feliz had a first and second from those two races, and there's no wonder why he's leading the championship going into this race, Ewan.
Exactly. We'll have a look at those championship standings as well, but coming up in the next couple of weeks is Monza and Le Mans, so trip back to Europe for the mid part of the season before we end out our American races with Sebring week after that at the end of April. As we said, it's the Fixed Series coming up first, and Jim Feliz is leading the championship. Jared Keane in second position overall. Then it's Brett Furman and Isaiah Osborne in fourth position. Then in running out the top five, Sean Provost, the first of the AM drivers. Tyler Graf, another pro, along with Jay Steffi and Dale Pedersen in 7th and 8th. Then it's Michael Fowler and William Fenson to round out the top 10 overall. And in the teams, SRTE Yellow are dominating. They cover the top 3 places overall, and that's no surprise to see them at the top of the teams as well. Mabworks, SRTE White and SRTE Black round out the top 4, with Doppelganger Racing rounding up the top 5. Just another point back, it's BNO Kartomania Pro. SGE Esports are in 7th out of SRT Blue and SRT Grey. Then it is Lunatic Racing rounding up the top 10. As you can see there, SRT are absolutely everywhere in the GT3 fixed series with those team standings. Before we go any further though, let's thank the sponsors who make this broadcast possible, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. This broadcast also brought to you by RaceBox. This box offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceBoxSimRacing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. Broadcast also brought to you by the Bookkicker. Bookkicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Coverage tonight also brought to you by Moradness. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. And by Mr. Hedge Sim Racing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And finally, this broadcast brought to you by Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn and to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. Big thanks to all of those sponsors who make these broadcasts possible. We're here 5 nights a week with Precision Racing League action here live on RaceSpotTV. And tonight it is GT3 time. It is fixed series first, as I say, and qualifying is just about to come to an end. I guess we've just looked at the championship standings, Dylan, and it's no surprise as a result to see that Jim Feliz is setting the pace in at the moment. Let's have a look at the starting grid now, with Jim Feliz heading the field. Tony Costello in the Audi alongside with a Ferrari. Ross Sortino in 3rd position. 3 different manufacturers in the top 3. It's Isaiah Osborne to round out the same position as the championship for 4th. Tyler Graf and Brett Thurman line up on the 3rd row. It's Jay Steffi and Kern de Gale next, ahead of David Bush and William Fenson to round out the top 10. And rounding out next row, Colin McKenzie for Lunatic Racing is there as well, with Joseph Kahns just ahead of him in 10th position. Jared Deploy is in 13th, ahead of Lucas Nguyen. Is Felix Feliz in 15th, ahead of Andrew Trickett. Dale Pedersen and Michael Fowler are on row 9, with rounding out the top 20, Christopher Rhines and Frank Pisano in the next places. Derek Keane there as well. Wado Walden, Sean Provost a bit of a way down compared to where you'd expect to see him. Regan Chandler and Jeff Carollo on row 12. Still got a little while to go here, by the way. There's Frank Pisano, who for some reason has jumped up on my timing screen, but not on the graphic there, so whatever. Dave Petterson is in 26th, ahead of Carlos Acano, with Creighton Carter in 28th. Nathan Jennings and Robert Jeffries round out the top 30. Just outside of that top 30, it's Francis Perron. It is David Morse alongside him, with Quincy Carter and Andrew Venaro. Ian Cabana is 35th, ahead of Matt Hilton, 1.3 seconds back. Nicholas Johnson and Travis Pruitt round out row 19, with Kevin Berkvist and Sean Mulholland inside the top 40, with Scott Jeffries, the final driver, to set a time. Patrick Cowgill, who is, interestingly, in our YouTube chat and not driving, didn't set a time, and neither did Sully Sad, who is at the back of the GT3 field as well, by the looks of things. So that is your starting grid from what we have been told. and we'll be ready to go racing very shortly. You can see the checker flag waving there still in the background. We're going to jump on forward to the race very shortly, of course. But Dylan, as I say, Jim Feliz on pole position, half a tenth of a second. It's the gap at the end, but no surprise really that he has or is going to lead the field to green.
Yeah, no surprise at all. Jim Feliz has been obviously the fastest driver of those first 2 races of the GT3 Fixed Series season. And I feel like we're going to see a lot of that this year, right? Feliz has a lot of speed, and we need to see a little bit more from Isaiah Osborne if he wants to defend that championship that he has. Osborne has been quick, but fourth won't cut it when Jim Feliz is getting firsts and seconds from the results of the race and starting there as well.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's good to see the variety at the front of the field as well here, I've got to say. Very much enjoying that. We've got at the front of the field Jim Feliz there, of course, and then Tony Costello and Ross Sortino. First of all, surprising that Adam has got onto the second row, but second of all, good to see the variety as we look at the track temperature. 69 degrees Fahrenheit down on the circuit, which is not very warm as far as iRacing standards go, but it's a sunset day today. The reason I say sunrise because we're sort of bookending this race with 2 different sunrise races. Watkins Glen a week ago and Monza next week will both be sunrise races. This is sunset, and it's only going to get cooler from an already quite cold track temperature here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And Road America is located in Wisconsin in the United States, Elkhart Lake, and it is known to get fairly cold fairly quickly once the lights go out. So I think this race, the tires, I didn't think anyone would be going for a tire swap at any point in this race, and they shouldn't now.
Oh, I would be able to agree with you if I knew where Wisconsin was, but anyway, that's a separate problem for me there. The formation lap is just about to begin, and we've got a full one, as you can see. The pace car rising over the line. Let's talk a little bit about Ross Sortino as well, because that's a remarkable opening lap from him to start the day. He's currently down in 15th in the driver's standings. Didn't compete at the opening round of the season at Interlagos, but was there at Watkins Glen. Came 3rd in the AM, so was on the podium. And with the drop week, he will shoot up the standings. But surely, even by anyone's standards, this is a surprising lap time. To get an AM inside the top 3 places on the second row is such an advantage to him, with his nearest rival being 9 positions behind him in the form of Colin McKenzie.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, it is important to mention that AM and Pro split, at least in the fixed series, there is that I rating cap. So anybody who has over 3,000 I rating is not in this race in the fixed series. Anyone from 2,000 to 2,999 is technically a pro driver for the basis of the Pro Championship in the fixed series. Anyone below that is an AM driver. And then when we go to the Sprint Series, everyone who would qualify for it in this race would actually be a bronze, or I should say an AM driver in the next one. So it is interesting that Sortino was able to put a lap like that up where he is. And I feel like we're going to see potentially a big swing in the AM Championship because of it.
Could well do. Don't forget they score points from the same tree, if you like, so those 9 positions between himself and his nearest rival is significant. As we've already said, Sean Provost is leading the AM standings by 13 points ahead of Michael Fowler, and then tied on 31 points is Creighton Carter and Francis Perrin, both who are in the race today. Mentioned, of course, this is the fixed series. Sprint series coming up, where we'll be open setups, and we'll be able to talk a little bit more about this when we get to then. But I just wonder what sort of effect this is going to have, the fact that it is a fixed series here for the opening race of the evening, because normally the discussion around Road America is how do you compromise your corner speed through the many turns that you have around this circuit, some of which are high speed, to having the straight line speed that you'll need to make overtakes into turn 1 and into turn 5 as well.
Well, it is one of the more unique tracks on any calendar, because it does have a very mixed set of corners, right? You've got the slower speed corners, turn 5, heavy braking zone after that long straightaway, but then you have a corner like the Carousel or the Kink, which we're going through right now on this formation lap before you go to Canada Corner, turn 12. It's the next hard braking zone. So it's very, very important to make sure these cars are I obviously can't put any kind of setup in the fixed series here. So it's about the car selection, and really it's just down to skill.
It certainly is. Last time I commentated on the PRL GT3 series, or both series, at the Road America circuit, we had a last corner pass and a drag race to the line. Well, let's hope that we see something similar to that here tonight. We've got, or should have had, 43 drivers making their way to the line here. I'm not sure we're even going to get 40, because according to my pictures anyway, some of these drivers may have got even maybe as many as 4, may have not gotten away for the formation lap at all, and maybe starting from the pit lane here, even if they do start at all. We'll keep an eye on that, of course, but the most pressing issue is to get on with this race start, and for Jim Felice to get us underway from the front. The championship leader, with just the one win to his name so far this season, is set to get us underway and return to winning ways for the first time since round 1. The green flag is in the air, and we're racing at Road America, but for some, it's a disaster. Some of them are not even going to make it to the start-finish line for the first time, because there's a big smash in the background. We'll get a replay of that when a few laps have passed, but it's a good start for the pole sitter, Jim Felice, who's even able to take the racing line in towards turn number 1.
Oh man, what a catastrophe. You still see some cars coming over the start line, and that was a big mess. You saw all the parts of the Ferraris, the Audis, every car really there. Look at that. That's some major front side damage, and you see the cars who are starting from pit lane. It's not necessarily a bad run for them.
Oh, it's probably a good idea. Side by side for 4th place here as Osborne tries to get down the inside of the Porsche of Tyler Graf. You can see the red and black car on the outside through turn 5 there. It's going to be outside for turn 6 as well. Oh, and speaking of Porsches, there's one in the wall just in the background. It looks like it was Felix Feliz in the wall, I'm afraid, out of turn 5, getting the traction all wrong.
Oh man, that was absolutely brutal. These Porsches obviously handle very differently than any of the other cars, but it is a popular choice. Felix Feliz, look at that big hit. That's goodness me. That's potentially race ending right there.
Well, there's been stuff going on here way back from the start here. That's a run off the road and getting back on again. This is the no bumper Grand Prix back here. And they've got no front ends on any of these cars here. Hilton involved too in whatever's going on through the first couple of corners. A really messy start, I'm afraid. We'll rewind it right the way back to the start in a few moments' time. But I can tell you that Jim Felice is still leading and has gotten away to a great start. He's leading by nearly a second. Ross Sortino, the other leader in the field, of course, the AM leader, has also gotten off to a wonderful start. He's in second position already, ahead of Tony Costello. We retain 3 different manufacturers in the top 3, with Porsche leading, Ferrari leading, Audi over the line for the first time. It's a very different story for those on backwards, but both pole sitters getting off to a dream start.
Yeah, but Tony Costello right now is looking to make a move on Sortino. He peered down to the inside there, heading into 1, did not have the momentum, the speed to cut him off on the inside, so we'll try and wait until turn 5 to make that move after this right-hander. It's very similar to turn 1, not in terms of speed, and it is going downhill in the braking section, so it is a bit deceiving when you have to apply some brake pressure.
It certainly is. Down in towards turn 5, there you go. It's Jim Felice with half a second. He's just being pegged back now by the slipstream as Tyler Graf is under pressure again here. He did lose that place to Osborne on the previous lap. Jay Steffi is the latest in line to try and take that position away. Is it side by side for 15th through the bottom of his shot? Andrew Trickett through on Lucas Nguyen, who might well lose another place here, down from 16th place as Dale Pedersen tries to get down the inside at Corvette. Just thrown up in the faces of these guys, and through goes Pedersen as well. There's going to be even more pressure heaped upon Nguyen at the moment as Michael Fowler tries to go through, but can't quite do it. Now, the list of names that have come down pit lane for the first time, by the way, is absolutely monumental. I mentioned that we got 41 away for the start, so 2 DNSs, despite being in the race earlier on. We've had 8 of those down pit lane for a sustained period of time already in this race, including one pit lane starter. That was Francis Parent, who qualified in the midfield, decided to start from pit lane. That turned out to be a wonderful call.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not necessarily a bad idea when you've got a track like this. You get some speed, get some running. You know there's going to be slower cars and slower traffic. You can start to pick them off one by one. It's definitely played into their hands quite well, as you still see some of the pit times there on your leaderboard. But just are over 4 minutes into this race. Feliz still with the lead, but that lead has been cut. Sortino with a lap that was almost, I think, half a second faster. Costello making another peek to the inside, but he's not as close as he was last lap.
Feels difficult to get away when you're still in the slipstream here, and Sortino is clinging on to that for now. Jim Feliz is going to have a hard time. Last laps were a 2-minute 4.8 from Feliz, 2-minute 4.4 from Sortino. No one quite as quick as Osborne, although Sortino was quicker than him, and he's off the road. Ross Sortino off the road out of turn 3. The Ferrari that was leading by such a great distance beforehand has now dropped and is not only third in class, but way down overall.
Oh my goodness, that is such a rough look right there. You have so much momentum, and sometimes that's just kind of what happens when you are a lower. It's not necessarily because you have lower I rating, but it is maybe a part of having it, right? You're in the AM class, and when you have an issue like that, it does appear that sometimes, hey, there's a little bit more seasoning that has to happen. Here's a move, hard passing zone here.
So around the outside for Joseph Carnes there, who hangs on to 12th place. It also proves me right for looking away and looking at a timing screen instead of what's going on the screen, because as soon as I look back again, in the grass all of a sudden. So Colin McKenzie is the new AM leader, and that was an important pass for Jared Deplu to make actually there, just clearing Joseph Carnes and Jared Keane, because that allows Deplu to get into chase mode, if you like, and try and catch Colin McKenzie, who is only one position ahead here, and that is for the AM lead and the AM win maybe in half an hour's time.
Yeah, 100% that's important, but now we do have that situation where the AM class battle is on, as well as this pro class battle. Feliz, Costello, it's for the overall lead of the race, but remember, Osborne just set the fastest lap, so he's on the move too.
Yeah, Osborne wasn't quite quickest of everyone, but he did have the quickest clean lap. Some of the others, especially the top 2, went off the road during their laps, but he's gone quicker, and that is a legitimate one there. He has legitimately gone quicker than everybody on that occasion, so he is going, and he is going to be here in a lap's time, I would imagine. Costello just seems to be sitting there. He was really close at the final corner, and now is just waiting for his moment, as there's been an issue down in the mid-pack out there, I'm afraid. Jared Deplu was involved, and it was with Joseph Carnes, who's gone back to pit lane, an incident possibly at turn 1.
Oh, goodness, that is quite wild as well. Carnes, who is always a driver to kind of pay attention to out on the racetrack, is definitely not on track at the moment. We'll have to keep you updated, but 4 laps into this race, and you're already seeing the attrition rate really high. Entered into it with 41 drivers scheduled to start. Obviously, we talked about the couple DNSs in this one, but right now only 30 are on the lead lap.
Yeah, it's been a very attritional opening to this race. How many we've got out at the moment, I don't know quite what to tell you. That's the move down the inside, and Deplu there, in my opinion, has been taken out through almost no fault of his own.
Yeah, absolutely. That was quite rash to say the least, trying to make a move right there. And hey, sometimes you're a little bit too impatient. There's still a lot of time in this race relative to how much overall time you had. Make the move when you can safely. That was not safe.
Oh, he wasn't. Meanwhile, Jim Feliz still leads. Just under 27 minutes remaining in the third round of the PRL GT3 Mixed Series. Tony Costello chasing, Israel Osborne in third, then Tyler Graff. You can see in the black and red Porsche further behind. Another Porsche, Brett Thurman in the red and blue just further behind. Top 5 go over the line, all within slipstream of one another. Jay Steffi is trying to get involved with them, but can't quite for the moment. Neither can David Bush or Koen de Geo in the top 8. William Fenson 9th, and then it's Colin McKenzie rounds out the top 10. He's the AM leader at the moment. This is on board with those who are chasing, and Fenson can't really do a lot from here. He's stuck behind Koen de Geo at the moment, but it seems that everybody outside the top 5 maybe don't quite have the pace to run with those very top drivers fighting for the lead in this race.
Oh, we have a car spun. It's the 97 of Jeff Corallo. That is a big mistake. Not sure what happened there, but for Corallo, he was doing really solid in this early season, and they'll have to go all the way back to the field. Let's see exactly what transpired.
Well, this is going to be messy. There's a lot of people around here who could be culprits, so let's work out what happens here. They were too wide in 3 rows for a moment, and they still are actually on the straight. Corallo is the Porsche at the back, I believe, side by side with one of the BMWs, and I'm not really sure what to make of that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, quite hard to tell. What's unfortunate for Corallo is that the season started off with so much promise in the qualifying session at Interlagos. Qualified second and just had a mistake, a big problem in that race, and ended up finishing in 44th. So for a driver like him, kind of putting himself in a hole right after really opening it up in that qualifying session perfectly, it's not good to have another race with an issue like that.
It was the triple one of Christopher Rhines who he made the final bit of contact with as they were all running side by side there. But as I say, not really sure who to apportion the blame to there, if there is any blame to be given out to anyone. End of another lap for the leaders. Tony Costello is not looking particularly threatening in terms of making an overtake right now, but he's right there with Jim Feliz, just applying the pressure just gently for the moment. It's going to tuck into the slipstream down the front straight for what will be the start of lap 6 in this race, and we're not too far away from half distance now, just over 5 minutes until we get there. Maybe it's going to be the pit stops that define the day, because at the moment on-track battles certainly aren't going to. Tony Costello has not even made an attempt at leading the field around. Maybe he wants to be towed around, just utilise the slipstream of the Porsche currently ahead of him.
24 minutes to go in this race. These lap times just over 2 minutes in length. So one thing to remember, while there are a multitude of passing opportunities over the course of one lap at Road America, they're going to get into a situation where those passing opportunities are getting fewer and farther between, where they're not going to be able to make a lunge into turn 5 that many more times, and that means they might have to be a little bit more aggressive than they'd like to be at this point in the race. That might be why we're seeing some attrition already with the mistakes.
So let's try and work out how many are out of the race at the moment. I think there's still a few who may re-emerge here. In fact, 4 who may re-emerge of the 11 who have been into pit lane, but I think 7 are out of this race already, I'm afraid to say, which is a real shame to see. Costello looking backwards at him at the moment in the pink Audi. He's in a bit of the slipstream towards Canada corner. These drivers hitting their marks to perfection as things stand, and that means that there's not really much that can be much difference being made between the drivers. What I've noticed on the left-hand side is Ross Sortino slowly working his way back through the field again. He's now 13th, 3 positions behind Colin McKenzie. Maybe he's not out of things yet in terms of an AM race win.
Yeah, he might have something to worry about in terms of Colin McKenzie, because it's, right now, 5 seconds under it, so 22 minutes to go. That's a gap that I think Sortino can make up, especially when you look at some of the qualifying times that we saw. Sortino's got the speed. It's just, can he be consistent over the course of the next 11 laps or so to catch up to Colin McKenzie?
I'm not sure who that Audi is coming out the pit lane, by the way, but it didn't look good. So let's see where that one goes at the end of the day. But Ross Sortino, there he is, 13th place. He's just past Dale Pedersen now for that position. Michael Fowler is just behind him in the AM class. Sitting in the pros, and you can see that with the colour of the numbers on the left-hand side. The whites are pro drivers, the purple drivers are AMs, and we have Pro and Am in both the fixed and sprint series, which will be just 5 minutes longer, but other than that, pretty much the same as this race, only difference being it's an open setup, which personally don't enjoy. So that's why I raced in the fixed series back when I did a few races last summer. Meanwhile, this is what's happened to that Audi. It was Scott Jeffries trying to find his way back out onto the circuit again. He is actually back out there again. Is he crabbing? On board, it doesn't actually look as bad as it did off board, but he's back in the race.
Yeah, that was quite curiosity-inducing right there. It's on pit exit, which is important to note that this pit lane, this exit, does not really have any blend zone. So you're coming out at half speed to drivers who are coming into turn one's braking zone at full speed, and that can lead to a mess if drivers are not aware of what's going on around them.
You've got to be really careful when we get to that pit stop phase in a few minutes' time. We're not far from half distance now. Probably 2 laps away. We'll be halfway there. That will be the end of lap 8. We might get to 17 laps though, so we might not be quite halfway, but you get what I mean. We'll be somewhere along those lines today. 16, 17 laps kind of day, depending on the speed of the race, of course. And there's a real tension at the front of the field here, and a real sense that no one has quite taken this race by the scruff of the neck. Jim Felice has led every lap so far, but equally, he's not dominating the field because there are 4 drivers directly in his mirrors here.
Yeah, certainly so. Felice has done well under pressure, though. That's something we definitely have to give him credit for. Even though he's got a lot of drivers that are right behind him, a famous racing quote says that you don't need to be the fastest to win, you just need to be the slowest when you're out in front. That's how you win a race.
Yeah.
Don't need anybody to go in front of you, right? As long as you can defend. Yeah,
true. I mean, it's difficult, I feel, though, to win a race by leading every lap at Road America. It feels like to me, because there are a lot of overtaking opportunities down towards turn 1, turn 5, the Canada corner as well. I mean, it's easier said than done to defend from the front and win in that way, but ideally, Jim Felice is going to try and do just that. I don't know what that was all about out of turn 5 there on that occasion, but Costello was able to have a look at the inside turn 6 for the first time. I feel like it was more to get in the mirrors and actually try and make a move, but it's interesting that that's the first time Felice will have felt any sort of pressure, really.
Certainly so, but Costello has not really gotten too often within that half-second range, and right here, that's a mistake from Felice. Going into Canada corner, he totally overshot the corner, and that just let Costello get right back into it.
Let's have a look at the onboard cameras of the day. Michael Fowler is the one we're looking at the moment, directly. Well, he's directly looking at us as he's looking through his headset, whatever you call that. So VR, but it's not quite square enough, rectangular enough. I don't even know what that is, but anyway, Michael Fowler utilising that at the moment to try and get his way to 14th place ahead of Dale Pedersen, an increasingly popular medium to sim race these days.
Yeah, sim racing in VR is quite the experience, and as long as you've got a powerful enough PC and you've got your VR headset, whether it's MetaQuest 3 or any of the multitudes, the Index, anything, you can try your hand at it in iRacing, and it is quite the experience.
Good afternoon, or good evening, I should say, more accurately, to everybody who's chatting along with us here on RaceSpotTV this evening in the GT3 night in the Precision Racing League. Michael O'Brien saying it's a bit of a fuel-saving train going on at the moment here at Road America. I mentioned that race earlier on that I commentated on last summer, where there was a drag race to the line, the final corner pass. I'm pretty sure Michael O'Brien was involved in it. If he wasn't one of the two who either won or lost, then he was definitely in the train that was up there in the sprint series, I think it was, that season. But anyway, good to see that everybody is watching along today. Plenty of repair times as well, unfortunately, for people. I reckon we've got 7 drivers out of the race, and 4 drivers who have re-emerged after pit stops of more than 5 minutes down on the pit lane. It was a huge crash to start off this race, unfortunately. It's sort of a legacy of this circuit, really, as we look at Jeff Carollo's extensive track match collection. just ahead of his triple screen display. When you're coming over that hill there and you don't know what you're coming over the hill to see, you can't really slow down for it. You can't really predict what's going to happen there, and it's an unfortunate tale of events that's taken out nearly a quarter of the field already.
Lots of different events, right? It's not just one massive crash. As we start to see pit stops here, Osborne and Graf, I believe, have just peeled off into pit lane. That is the case. And really, it's just going to be a fuel stop here. Costello is very close to Feliz and closing. Action happening all around.
Here we go then. This is the big moment. Osborne leading them onto pit lane. How long are Feliz and Costello going to leave this in reaction? You wouldn't imagine very long. And they've got quite a train following them in as well. Jay Steffi in the blue and red Porsche is also in. That's Kern de Gale in the darker Lamborghini as well. They'll all pull in. Let's hope that they all get their marks. They do. Now, what are the pit stop times? Get your stopwatches out here, because this is very, very important indeed to note for later on when these two eventually make their way down pit lane. It's going to be longer stops than I was expecting, quarter of a minute or so, but they will eventually get out. It will be Tyler Graf who will be first out by the looks of things. 13.4 from him, 12.9 from Steffi. Osborne with 15.8. Bit of a longer stop there for Osborne.
Yeah, there's a lot of variation throughout the field on those in-box lengths, and of course, in pit lane altogether. We've got one that's 48.2 seconds. We've got another that's 44.2. So that's a big variation. And I think as we continue to see this pit cycle play out, we're going to see some different names up in the top 10 at least.
Onboard look at Tyler Graf as well, whose face is rather comically just snuggled in the right corner there of that webcam. That's good, but it's all about these two for the next few moments. You'd imagine that this is an in-lap from Jim Feliz, because he is flying. He's brought that gap out to 8-9 tenths of a second, as off in the background Brett Thurman breaks too late into Canada corner. It really is go time, and that's where the mistakes can arise.
Yeah, and not only that, as they almost come together right there. I thought we were going to see a major collision. And you can see right in the background as they all head into pit lane coming out of turn 14. I thought we were about to see an unbelievable chase into turn 1.
Well, it's chase into the pit lane instead. Colin McKenzie will have the option to go around and lead or pit in as well, and McKenzie comes in. So does Jared Keane, and then it's up to those still out there on the circuit. Felix Feliz, Francis Parent haven't been in yet, but they were down and now earlier on, of course. Feliz with that contact with the wall, and Parent starting from the pit lane. Meanwhile, Tyler Graf is going to be the one first out as we look at Patrick Cowgill's personal setup. What's the pit stop time going to be from those leaders here? Jim Feliz with a very short stop by the looks of things to me. 11.8 on the lane. Costello not too much longer, but where is Tyler Graf? Nowhere near them really. 3 seconds behind, and Jim Feliz has got a second over the field, because while it was a decent stop from Costello, it was still 1.2 seconds longer, and he came in with a disadvantage as well. This looks like Jim Feliz's race to lose on the exit of the pit stop phase.
All right, don't say that completely. It's only a second. It's only 1.1 seconds between Costello and Feliz. Feliz has been so good at backing them up enough, but Costello still has the benefit of the slipstream. I think that's going to be a massive part, but he did push it right there going around turn 5.
I think he's certainly in control of this race, but we'll see just how he's getting on. The battle for the AM lead might be an interesting one, though Ross Sortino might well run out of laps to get there in time. He's got 7 to go, including the one that we're on here at the moment. I mean, it makes you wonder a little bit what Jim Feliz was doing at the front there, because we so often talk about the draft and the fuel saving that goes on in the trains and these long straights at Road America, but you also see that leader who was pushing the air out of the way for everybody during the last stint is leading the way after one of the shortest pit stops of them all. So it makes you wonder what sort of lift and coasting Jim Feliz was doing in that first stint.
Yeah, it does make me wonder a little bit. Maybe it was just purely Feliz was just doing as best of a job as everybody else was, marginally faster. right? Sometimes it's just drivers are neck and neck, and it's not necessarily that they're pulling away because they're not. they're racing at the same speeds, and they're both making the same mistakes, both making some very similar lap times, and you almost feel like you're in a train in situations like that.
Is Ross Sortino up to 10th place ahead of Andrew Trickett now. That's for the lead in AM we're seeing here, just under 6 seconds the gap in that battle for 9th place as Jared King tries to get through on Trickett as well, although he's going to be pretty unsuccessful without the slipstream. Maybe now with a bit of a side draft Jared King can get to the inside in the 11th position. And it's turn 1, and yes is the answer there. It's a long way around the outside, turn number 1, and Jared Keane made sure that he made full use of that to get up into 11th place.
Yeah, he did a really solid job right there. We get a replay of, is this the start of the race? Just a little bit of a recap of what's going on here at Road America, and it was a quite wild start, and it might still be wild at the end. You see all the catastrophe going on before even getting to the flagman. That's just wild.
I'm trying to understand there from that shot up the hill, who caused it, if we can say that, or what caused it, maybe, is more fair. Doesn't really appear to me that there is an obvious cause-y, if that's a word. It just seemed that it was one of those things, really, but at the end of the day, somebody may be punished for it, because all it takes, I suppose, in that situation is somebody to go early, just one person to go early, then the person behind them goes early, but then they realise they can't, so they're all braking, and then the person behind them has to react and all that kind of thing, and all of a sudden you're piled on top of one another.
It's the accordion effect, right? You have one thing happen. It's like if you're on a highway, start, stop, and one car decides that they want to brake. You brake a little bit later, the car behind you brakes a little bit later, and all of a sudden, you're rear-ended. You've got to deal with an insurance claim.
Yeah, I'm glad it's been a while since I've been on a busy motorway.
Oh, yes.
Put it that way. So there we go. Quite well to scare enough. Anyway, battle for 3rd place seems to be the most interesting for now. Charlie Graf is looking increasingly tenuous in that position, actually, although Tony Costello is giving Jim Felice a good run for his money. That's not a fight for now, but Jay Steffi has just moved down the inside from an impossibly late gap. That was unbelievable. I've no idea how he got that pulled up in time. I've no idea how they avoided accident, but Tyler Graf is still in 3rd place.
Graf is right now starting. Oh man, is there any train-related puns that start with a G? I don't think so, but it is the Tyler train. How about that?
Yeah. Well, that's what we can call it. Here goes William Fenton down the inside in the Ferrari, and that's going to possibly allow Graf to get away here, although a nice run around the outside from Jay Steffi keeps him in 4th place and keeps the train together. As I say, this battle for 3rd place, probably the most interesting in the field now, as the final podium place is very much up for grabs.
Yeah, this is absolutely fantastic. It did allow Graf to get just a tiny bit away, but I do have a feeling that he's going to be back in the clutches of Steffi, Fenton, and the rest of the bunch very quickly.
Yeah, let's see. As we go around the carousel, very, very long turns 9 and 10 and into the kink. One of my favourite corners on the circuit, actually, turn 11. Though I'm not saying multi-class racing, it does cause its fair share of problems. It's a big accident zone and can be on occasion. You make your way through the, well, what's called a straight, because there's no corner numbers within it, but it's not necessarily. Bends to the left, and then you get into the corner. The Bill Mitchell bend at turn 13, the final turn 14, which is so crucial for your run onto the front straight. Steffi with a late apex there, sort of a straight run, trying to use that Porsche traction as much as possible, but it's not worked very well, as you can see, because Fenton is right in behind here and looking for a way through into 4th position. It's William Fenton looking for that place and maybe chasing a podium with 7 minutes to go. Down the inside into turn 1. It's a long way around the outside for the Porsche, especially if it's going to be ushered out wide like that. Just kicking up some grass on the outside, and Fenton gets through, even able to clear down in towards turn 3.
Tyler Graff is so thankful that other drivers are in this dogfight right behind him, because he has been able to scoot by over a second away with third. Side by side, though, going into 5.
It's outside line this time for Steffi, as it was into turn 1. It's going to need to be very late on the brakes, though, and he's giving this a good go. Oh, he didn't quite squeeze enough. He's gone wide, and that's going to allow David Bush the chance, who doesn't take it into Corvette. Lamborghini chooses to stay behind. It's roles reversed from last lap, really, where Fenson was on the outside and didn't stand a chance. That time, Steffi was on the outside, broke too late, went too wide, and you don't stand a chance when you're already taking the long way round if you decide to take an even longer way. So William Fenson is up to 4th place, but as you say, Tyler Graff is absolutely loving this. He's nearly 2 seconds ahead now.
Well, you know, it depends on what the next set of corners is, right? If you can get the inside line going into the next couple corners, then maybe taking the outside to try and get the momentum and be alongside that quarter panel is not necessarily the worst idea.
Yeah, true. It didn't work for Steffi on that occasion. He will remain 5th with 5.5 minutes to go. That'll be 3 laps when we get to the line here in the 3rd round of the PRL GT3 Fixed Series. Bridge Series racing coming up after this. Of course, this race isn't quite done just yet. We were briefly on board there with Kern de Gale, who is at the back of the train. Oh, what a mess that was. Into the final corner. William Fenson and Jake Steffi both making mistakes. David Bush almost with too many options towards turn 1 here. Will hang back now as the 2 battle for 4th position. It's going to be outside line for Steffi again into turn 1 though, although this time gives it a better go. Fenson there has to back off and just tucks back into line again. Hey, Steffi retakes 4th place.
Look at the move going back there for 7th. Osborne and de Gale are right next to each other going through turn 2. They're still side by side. This is an unbelievable dogfight. Again, Tyler Graff is so thankful he's been able to scoot away. By the way, Feliz and Costello are only 3/10 apart for 1st.
Yeah, it's close for the lead too. I didn't quite realise, but Costello is giving Jim Feliz a real good go at the moment. Feliz, the championship leader, of course, after taking 1 race win so far this season. Last week it was David Bush, who's currently 6th, who took the race win. But Tony Costello would very much like to make that 3 different winners in 3 different races. He's only been at 1 of the races so far this season. He's looking to make an impression on his 2nd season appearance. This battle is only allowing Tyler Graff to secure a podium place, but that may well be the only podium place in secure at the moment. This is the AM Championship leader. Sean Provost is not having a good day.
That is one of the worst feelings, making a small mistake like that. Really, no one he can blame except for himself. He can look down at his tires in the track and say, "What are you doing for me, tires?" And, well, the answer is nothing you couldn't help yourself with.
It's like a sports player looking down at the turf. Unfortunately, that's not where the blame lies, unfortunately. And this one, oh, that's wide though.
That's it.
Tony Costello may well have just thrown the race away. Well, he had a pretty small chance of getting past Jim Feliz anyway. It would have been a huge fight for him to do so, but he's certainly sealed it now. Jim Feliz should have the final 2 laps of honour almost here, as Tony Costello makes a mistake into the final corner and now drops 2 seconds back.
Yep, that's it. Unless Feliz makes a major mistake in the next lap and a half or so, then this is his race to lose at this point. Battle for 4th still raging. Steffi almost set his left side tires into the grass heading into turn 2. This is good fun.
It is a good end to the race. It's warmed up in this 2nd stint for sure. The fuel games have gone away, and we're getting good racing for 4th place especially. It's William Fenson back down the inside, trying to redo the overtake that he undid not so long ago, and he's back into 4th position. David Bush is being surprisingly sort of calm and cautious, actually, in that 6th position. I would have thought, at least in one of those 3 moves we've seen in the last 10 minutes, he would have tried to follow the driver who had just overtaken another, try and follow them through, but he hasn't even attempted to do that once yet.
Yeah, not at all, and gonna have one more try right? One more try around all these sets of corners. Yes, you'll see the carousel a second time going through it right now, but you have to set up the moves for what you're going to do next lap, because it will end the race. We'll take the white flag with Feliz crossing the line this time, and all of these drivers will do the same. So opportunities are slim at this point to make up positions.
Very limited, certainly just over 80 seconds remaining in the race. Jim Feliz is going to start our final lap of this round of the championship. This is where the fighting is going to be, though. It's no longer for the final podium place. In fact, it's probably only for the final place inside the top 5. William Fenton looking good now for 4th position, but Jay Steffi has just fallen further down the field with every lap that has gone by in this second stint. And David Bush would like to be the final driver to try and overtake here. So close behind the Porsche as we see the white flag now for the final time, and they're side by side over the line here as the white flag waves in the background. Jay Steffi on the outside of the line again at turn 1. It's not turned out very well the first few times. Maybe it will this time. It's a good effort, spirited fight from the driver of the red and blue Porsche on the outside, but the Lamborghini will break later into turn 3 and will get through. David Bush will be the final member of the top 5 by the end of the day.
Let's see if that Lambo power can speed away from the Porsche and the rest of this crowd. Going to be tough to do it, but looks like so far he's got the special speed, special salsa move in the background by Osborne. He needs 7th. Feliz currently the championship leader and is going to extend that championship lead if it all stays as it does. It's not looking good for Osborne right now.
Particularly, Osborne came into the day 38 points behind. Will lose even further points to this man. Jim Feliz leading the way. He's going to extend his margin by quite some distance as well, because of Brett Thurman's problems today. And the fact that he is quite a long way down compared to some of his championship rivals, down in 24th overall. It's going to promote Tyler Graff to 2nd in the championship, I would imagine, with Jared Keane, I think, not here today. Oh no, he is here. He's just in 11th place, but he's sufficiently far back. So it is going to be very different as Jay Steffi loses more positions here. Not sure what that's all about at the kink for the final time, but Osborne will gain places. Meanwhile, Feliz hasn't had to gain any. He's led every single one of the 17 laps here this evening, and he is going to win the race. The third round of the PRL GT3 Fixed Series goes to championship leader Jim Feliz, who will take his 2nd win of the season, and another fantastic drive from him. Another haul of points. He finishes 3 seconds ahead of Tony Costello, and Feliz have stood a lot of pressure during that race and fully deserves the win.
Like I said, just drive slow enough to lead the race. I mean, he did a fantastic job of staying calm and cool under immense pressure for most of this race. Pretty much the last lap and a half or two was the simplest for him, which I didn't think we'd say, because we did see Tony Costello getting a big charge. In other news, by the way, 3-second difference between 7th and 8th place, which was the AM class. Colin McKenzie won that one over Ross Sortino.
Certainly did. By the way, I'm pretty sure I just saw Kern de Gale get pushed over the line. Maybe he was out of fuel, but anyway, we'll get to the bottom of that later. It's another Porsche victory, though. Jim Feliz wins for SRTE Yellow. Tony Costello 3 seconds back. Tyler Graff joining them on the podium. William Fenton, David Bush and Isaiah Osborne, the only drivers to finish ahead of the AM battle, which was, as you say, won by Colin McKenzie, ahead of Ross Sortino, who will think he should have won, to be honest. Jared Keane finishes 9th in the end, gaining 2 places on the last lap. Jay Steffi loses a few, though. He finishes 10th ahead of Dale Pedersen. Michael Fowler was on the podium in AM ahead of Kern de Gale, who, as I say, I still think he was pushed over the line, not by Lucas Nguyen, but maybe by his teammate Andrew Trickett. I don't know, though. BMW of Christopher Ryan finished in 16th place ahead of Jeff Carollo, Felix Feliz, Jared DePlue and Waldo Walden to round out the top 20. It was Ian Capana 21st in the Ferrari ahead of championship leader in the AM standings, Sean Provost. Francis Perron jumped from the pit lane to 23rd during that race ahead of Brett Thurman, who will drop in the Pro Championship today. Andrew Venaro rounds out the top 25 ahead of Travis Pruitt. Jack Cowgill, the only driver to start the race who didn't qualify, finishes the first driver 1 minute or more back. Sean Mulholland Robert Jeffries, and then 30th position for Creighton Carter. It's David Moore's 31st ahead of Matt Hilton in the SLT black car. Then we're at the guys who are a lap down, including those two: Kevin Bergqvist, Scott Jeffries, Joseph Carnes, Dave Peterson, Regan Chandler, Frank Pisano, Wallace Acano, Nathan Jennings, and that is pretty much it. Oh, Nicholas Johnson, excuse me. That rounds out your drivers who didn't finish, and there is a big list of them, as we say. Let's have a chat to some of those drivers after the first race of the night, where we get ourselves set up for the Sprint Series, starting with Jim Feliz, who wins for the second time this season. Welcome in, Jim. Good to have you with us. It was a tense race for quite some time. Tony Costello's mistake with a couple of laps to go sealed the deal for absolute sure, but had he not made that mistake, were you confident in your defending abilities to hold on to the win regardless?
Yeah, I think so. Tony's awfully fast. We've been in some sort of practice races earlier this week, and so I knew he was going to be in contention for the win today. And I think I had a little bit of pace in hand there, but was also trying to manage fuel. So it would have been close, but I certainly breathed a sigh of relief when I saw him run a little wide in the last corner there.
Mentioned fuel. How were those fuel games in the first stint, especially because it looked like a very close race at the start? I think it showed eventually that you alongside Costello were the fastest two drivers with your in-laps purely on speed there. But what were the games like, and how much fuel saving were you doing at the first stint?
Yeah, it was really tactical battle out there today. Maybe not the most exciting to watch, but I think, I was trying to save as much fuel as I could everywhere. Take a few lessons from last week where David Busch had that fantastic pit stop at Watkins Glen. So it was really just trying to manage the pace, save as much fuel as I could. And when I saw Sortino spin, I actually kind of dropped back. I know Tony was pretty consistent behind me, and so I kind of wanted him between me and Israel, Graf, some of those other guys back there, and so was really just trying to save fuel, keep Tony at a reasonable distance, and see how things shook out at the pit stop, and from there it was hammer down. So
you did well to win the race again. Congratulations, Jim, on the victory, and thanks so much for coming to chat to us.
Yeah, thanks, Ewan.
Emerged Jim Feliz there, the race winner for the second time this season, ahead of Tony Costello, who also joins us now from second. Welcome in, Tony. Good to have you with us. How much are you sort of ruining that mistake with a couple of laps to go? Do you think you could have had the win otherwise?
I actually don't think I had much for Jim, but yeah, that was my attempt, is to get a good run up the hill. But yeah, he just drove a great race today, so I'm happy with second.
I mean, what was the opening part of the race like in terms of your expectations? Because everyone was running very close together in that first part. Do you think that second was going to be, a possible result for you when you had all those drivers around you in the first 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, I knew I had pace, and if I just didn't overdo it and I hit my point, my braking points and things, I figured I'd be fine. I didn't think, like I said, that I had anything for Jim, but yeah, I was just trying to be smooth and just kind of bring it home,
Absolutely. Congratulations on the second place tonight, Tony, and thanks so much for coming to chat to us as well.
Yeah, thank you guys. Take care.
Very much. Tony Costello there, second place here today. And joining them on the podium, Tyler Graf, who joins us as well. Congratulations on a podium, Tyler. It was all down to that second stint where you were able to race away from the rest, and you got there by a second over William Fenson in the end. How much of that sort of battle do you think was sort of, that third place, I should say, was made by the battles behind, and how much do you think was down to your speed that you were able to get into third?
Actually, it was down to my lack of speed. I underfueled, so I was saving like crazy the last stint. I needed like 0.3 of a gallon to make it to the end, so I was lifting and coasting and clutching and doing anything that I could think of. The couple laps I pushed, I was able to, I gained like a half second on the leaders, but I couldn't push and keep gas in the car. So I just kind of basically had to manage the gap. I was watching them in the mirror, and when I'd see them battling, that's when I'd lift going into the brake zone and really give it a long time to save some fuel. So yeah, it made it entertaining, that's for sure.
I mean, it was certainly an entertaining battle to watch for us as well. I mean, what was the sort of key to coming out on top in one of those battles around a circuit that does have quite a few chances to overtake?
Honestly, it was kind of not just being the guy that sees a gap and goes for it. There's so many places you could try to pass here where if you try the pass, you're going to slow yourself down and everybody else behind you, and that just stacks it up and backs it up even more, and then causes more of a cluster. So I think it's just making high percentage passes, making sure you have the run, making sure you got the overlap, and when you can do a pass like that, it's definitely going to be a little quicker and not stack things up.
Well, congratulations on a podium tonight, Tyler, and thanks so much for coming to chat to us as well.
Thanks, have a good one.
So very much Tyler Graff there, the final podium driver in Pro. And finally, let's chat to the AM winner. Colin McKenzie is with Dylan.
Yeah, Colin, congratulations, first of all, on the AM class win. Obviously, you'll get the points for finishing 7th overall, but it will be the most points anyone in the AM class got tonight. But you did have a little bit of a challenge late by Ross Sortino. He didn't get within 3 seconds of you, but hey, it's his mistakes, kind of your benefit. Take us through it.
Yeah, no, lap 3, I think, is when he went off, and to be honest with you, I totally forgot there was a Pro-Am split, so I was just trying to hang in there, but towards the end, I was in incident bonus limit, so I was basically just lifting in every single high-speed corner, trying to not get the black flag on it, while trying to keep him at bay at the same time.
Well, it definitely felt like, throughout there was that gap between you and everybody in front. So was it a race where you could really just focus on your own drive, making sure to hit your braking points correctly and not really have to worry about really where other cars were in relative space to you?
Yeah, I think once that front pack, we started spacing out and I made a mistake and got out of draft, it was more or less just head down and try to just put some laps in. Unfortunately, I made another mistake and someone else, I think it was Jared Keene, was up my tail, but something happened in the pits, and when I came out, I had a 5-second buffer, so it was basically, just head down, let's keep the X's down and, just try to finish.
Well, congratulations, Colin, on that one. I feel like, it's got to be a weird feeling winning the AM class, winning in your class, but also finishing 7th overall with 7th overall points. But nonetheless, something to smile about and celebrate going into next week. Congratulations again.
Thanks again, guys. Before I go, I just want to do a huge shout out to my friends Alex and G, who are going to be running the Boston Marathon this coming Monday for the Doug Flutie Foundation in support for autism, and especially it's going to be Autism Awareness Month. So big shout out to them. Have a good night. Thanks, guys, for the interview.
Not a problem. Thank you again, Colin. And Ewan, it's going to be a lot of fun seeing how this racetrack races with setup cars in the Sprint Series.
Exactly. It's time to go racing for the second time tonight, and this time the Precision Racing League's GT3 Sprint Series ready to hit the track. Slightly faster speeds, certainly faster setups tonight on the cars in our second instalment of racing, and hopefully we can see a race just as exciting as the fixed series, especially towards the end. Just 5 minutes longer this one, of course, but the key difference being the open setups. Let's have a look at the schedule once again, because it does mention that we will be repeating the fixed series races. Monza next time, we're out Le Mans after that, etc. The finale being at the Nürburgring combined 24-hour circuit, which is going to be a very interesting place to end out a season. Let's have a look at the very interesting championship standings as well so far, because it's all been very, very close. Gugel Baldi and Juan Lemus are leading the way together, if you like, in the two Ferraris. In fact, it's a Ferrari top 6 here, with Kevin Cantonio just 2 points back in third. Jason Allen is fourth at 1 point ahead of Diego Morales and Mateus Carvalho, who are both tied on 84 points. Down in 7th position, it is Ethan Bass, who is still in the Ford GT, and we absolutely love him for it. Juan Malagon is in 8th place ahead of Keith Maines and David Mendonca in the 10th position. Used to be an AM driver so many seasons ago, but no longer the case. These are the AM drivers. Speaking of the present day, Louis Groulon is currently leading the way here in a Porsche, 1 point ahead of Chris Long, 4 points ahead of Ray Dominguez. It's Richard Saavedra in 4th place ahead of Rich Calais. Sean Murphy is in 6th position ahead of Miles Brown, the final driver to have completed both races so far. Andre Bonacci has only been at 1 so far, so has Devin Brock and Ardy Mercedes, who's in a Porsche. Of what you will. So those are your standings. Here's the teams. It's 24 points between Precision Racing Blue and SCR Oldman. Precision Racing Silver in 3rd position, just a couple of points out of CRC. At CRT Cibao Racing Team Purple. Their green team is in 6th place. It's Scuderia Ferrari Esports Team. Vima Racing Team are in 8th ahead of Alianza GPVA RMS. Lots of acronyms there. Ahead of Orbit Motorsport, who round out the top 10. And that, by the way, Orbit Motorsport is just Ethan Bass on his own. He's in the top 10 in the teams. It's open setups once again, though, Dylan, and a bit of a notable difference, actually, in the cars. In the fixed series, you've got Porsches everywhere, especially at the front of the field. In fact, in the AM fixed series standings before today's race, there was only one driver inside the top 10, not in a Porsche. This is so not the case in GT3 Sprint. We've got the top 6 covered by Ferraris in the Pro, which is a weird dynamic and a weird difference between the two.
Quite, and last season it was pretty much a Porsche lockout of the top 10 and most of the cars in the field, but this year it does seem to be the Ferraris are the dominant one that gets used by pretty much most of the top runners in this field. But nonetheless, as qualifying just has a couple minutes left, all these drivers crossing the line now will get one final lap to set a time, and the gaps are very tight. Everyone in the top 10 within 2/10.
That's exactly what we want to see. There is Fernando Jaquez in the 26 car. Me currently running in 5th place, just ahead of Abner Acosta. We see so often in the oval side of things, shall we say, always a strong road course driver, and that's how you can notice a lot of the NASCAR drivers get a little bit of stick for only driving NASCAR, whether it's Cup Series, Truck Series, or Grand National Series that we have here in the PRL. But everyone says, you know, they're only turning left and all of that kind of thing. But get to know a good road course driver, for example, and you realise that actually these drivers, these Cup Series drivers, or whichever series of the NASCAR schedule it is, if their road course driving is strong, then they're going to be strong road course driving in pretty much anything, and Abner Acosta certainly is that. He's only just over a 10th away on pole position. There he is in one of the few Porsches actually up towards the front.
Hey, I take a little bit of offense to that left turning rhetoric. Trying to talk about my NASCAR world of working in it, but we do have Shane Van Gisbergen and AJ Allmendinger in the team I work for, so you know we do like road courses as well.
It's the English perception, I'm telling you, of NASCAR drivers. That's a fact. Whether it's true or not
British
is a
NASCAR
separate debate. But there we go. I can't turn left on an oval, so if that makes you feel better, I'm not very good at the ovals. So there you go.
I can't turn left on an oval, and I can't turn left or right on a road course.
Oh, yeah, but then they're difficult to drive on a road course because they're not designed for it, so it's just a nightmare. Anyway, I've caused my fair share of trouble in oval races on iRacing in my time, so let's be thankful it's not a not an oval race today, and I'm not on the circuit. The checkered flag is out in qualifying. Looks like Coco Baldi is going to take the pole position. When Lemous is in 2nd position, they're tied on points at the top of the championship. They're nearly tied in terms of times here, 10th and a half between them. This qualifying session is just a look really at just how close the season has been, really, not just this session, but this whole season has been like this.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's been a lot of fun to watch throughout the first couple races of the year. I feel like usually we're so used to seeing fixed series garner a higher car count and a higher amount of starters. This is pretty impressive. We've got 47 drivers that have set lap times in qualifying, and Kevin Cantanillo is the pole sitter.
Well, what my time screen says, but we'll go with this.
Oh, you know what? That's true. That's not what mine says either.
No. Anyway, we'll carry on anyway. Fernando Jaquez alongside. There'll be lots of Ferraris on the outside here with Abner Acosta, Juan Malagon, Martin Crispin, Kergo Baldi, who's also from Europe. Must be very early in the morning for him. Juan Lemus is just behind with Daniel Krasowski in 8th. Nani Tavares is 9th ahead of Boris Ovando, stalwart of the GT3s. Drew Becker and Chris Soyang on row 6. 13th position, and we're barely over a quarter of a second off pole here, by the way, for Olivia Rodriguez Santos. It's Louis Grillon in 14th, but Jason Allen and Ethan Bass, the only Ford, as always, in 16th. Chris Long and Miguel Colon round out the top 18. Diego Ayer and Kevin Simpson and at the top 20. RB Mercedes in the Porsche is 21st, ahead of Emmett Lindqvist. It's Matis Carvalho and Gonzalo Cortes to round out row 12. Keith Maines is 25th, ahead of Alex D. Almeida, who was chatting with us throughout the Fixed Series race. He's on the circuit ahead of Chase Wilson and Diego Morales. Eric Staropoli is ahead of Jack Hedgecox. That rounds out the top 30, and we're still within a second of pole, by the way. So we're inside the top 30. Really remarkable session in that respect. Just outside of that, we'll go back to the start. Let's go to Jeremy Lisselton, who is 31st. Aidan Young is 32nd ahead of Hector Alvarez, and that rounds out those who are within a second. Chris Stewart, Jason Hodgson, and Nestor Santana are on the 18th row. Andre Bonatti and Ray Dominguez next ahead of Devin Brock and Miles Brown. Douglas Curry is 41st ahead of Rich Calais. As we said, there's even more than we got in the Fixed Series. Byron Daly, Richard Saavedra, John Murphy were all those who set times. Marc-Andre Garon and David Mendonca round out the 47 on the grid. Hopefully we get them all starting. There they are on the grid. It's not going to be a standing start, of course. It's going to be a rolling start, and I wonder how many of those in the Sprint Series saw the Fixed Series race to know to be careful over the rise towards the line for the first time.
Well, it's certainly going to be a lot more hectic, I feel, somehow, just because we've got more drivers that are supposed to take the start of this race. But I wonder if any of them are thinking, hey, maybe we should start from pit lane. If they're at the back of the pack, they saw what happened in the last race. It's not necessarily a bad idea for this estimated 20-lap affair.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of drivers in the Fixed Series chat, as you can imagine, talking about that start happened towards turn 1. A number of drivers not very pleased with how that panned out. Just past 20 past 6 in the evening in Sim Virtual Standard Time. The day always set to the Saturday before the race. This time set to a sunset, but because the clocks have gone forward and we are forward? Yes, forward. And we are into the summertime, if you like, then we are having some later sunsets out there on the circuit, so that means that even at 20 past 6 we can still see very clearly, and at the end of the previous race we could see very clearly as well, which is a great thing for everybody. Not too many night races here this season. There will be a bit of an early start for Monza and Mount Panorama as well, but at 8:30 the conditions should be light by then. I think the only night race will be at Le Mans, when it will be at 10 past 10 start time, 2 weeks time. That's going to be a dark start, I would imagine, and a dark finish, that race. Maybe the Nürburgring as well, because light doesn't get through very well there. They will start at 7:30 for that race, so no darkness here today, but maybe a little bit of it before the end of the season.
Yeah, and that will be quite an interesting race. I mean, listen, the temperatures in this one are already pretty low. 68 degrees Fahrenheit is nothing to really sniff about, but a night race, it just changes the conditions. You can't see as well, and on a track that is not well lit, that is a scary prospect to drive in.
I'm quite looking forward to Le Mans. I always enjoy that in GT3s. I think I had my best ever PRL result back there in Le Mans. I wouldn't get excited. I think it was about 15th or something. But, it was a good day, so there you go. Hopefully some good racing there to go. And hopefully some good racing here too in the Sprint Series. They're currently making their way round on the very lengthy formation lap we have. The iRacing safety car driving as if there's got all the time in the world, as it so often does around the road courses especially. And so waiting a little while for our start just yet, but it's about Ferrari and Porsche at the front of the field. As I said before, it's so interesting the different manufacturers who are involved in the sprint series compared to the fixed. I wonder if it's just a different group of drivers who have taken a liking a bit more to the Ferrari than the previous group, or whether there is a lot more to be gained by putting a setup on a Ferrari compared to some of the other manufacturers like the Porsche, which is so popular in the fixed but not exactly everywhere in the sprint series.
You know, it is unique to this series with having just that one sect of cars that is utilized, and I do wonder as well, like, if those cars, if each build of iRacing each season, they select them because they like what they can kind of change in the setup, or maybe they look at the schedule. I'm not sure.
No, not sure, to be honest.
Not sure where in the universe we are.
Just coming around the kink now and into the Canada corner, getting ready for the start. I wonder what we're going to see on the start. As I mentioned before, much of the previous race are they going to have seen in terms of getting this one underway. But other than that, Road America doesn't have a big stop in towards turn one exactly. It's a flowing first corner, which normally lends itself to better first laps than at some other circuits. So hopefully we get a clean start.
Hopefully. But we did say the same thing last time. We did say the same thing, the hope for a clean start. We didn't get that clean start. Maybe they'll be a little bit calmer that they've seen it, but my bet is on it's going to be even more hectic.
Well, let's see about that as we get ourselves round the final corner now and ready to go racing again. It's round 3 of the Precision Racing League's GT3 Sprint Series here from Road America as we rise up the hill and into this race start immediately. No waiting around this time, and a cleaner start, I'm happy to say, for the Sprint Series drivers. A nice getaway as they see the green flag for the first time. Kurgo Baldi pulls all the way over to the right and then back to the racing line again to take the ideal line through turn 1, and it's a clean start through the top 10 or so. Second position will be Juan Lemus, who's been trailing him so far all throughout this season. Abner Acosta next up, followed by Kevin Cantonio. Fernando Jaquez looking for positions as there's a spin in the background. It's Boris Ovando, I think, who's gone around and is dropping down the field.
Oh no, they're still wrecking. Big mess!
Oh.
Big hit into the concrete wall, and that's in the midfield.
Oh dear, huge contact and lots of bodywork already lost, I'm afraid, back in the pack. So many drivers already down on pit lane, and saw a few come in actually immediately after the formation lap, but there'll be a few more in at the conclusion of the opening lap. Side by side as well for the AM leaders. Oliver Rodriguez Santos tries to hold on to the lead. This is what happened further back. Huge hits onto the wall for the likes of Ray Dominguez, for example. Other people who have come in include the likes of Chase Wilson, Aidan Young, Rich Calais, for example. Look at the amount of drivers back here who are getting themselves underway late on. What a disastrous start for some of those. 8 drivers by my counting already down pit lane.
You know, I'm not sure exactly in real world Road America, as you see side by side in the kink, that's never going to work out the way they wanted to, but so far it looks fine. But real world Road America, that concrete wall, not sure if it's exactly there, it's protected, but that is a dangerous spot. It's unsafe, especially when you have real people in the actual seats of these cars. Obviously, no pain, no gain here in sim racing, but that stretch between turns 3 and 5, it narrows up so quickly because of the bridge.
I think Keith Main's just got tipped off the road there, out of the through the penultimate corner. He did. He's just joined back onto the circuit again, ahead of Lamborghini with no bonnet. Meanwhile, the leaders get away well. It's single file in the top 5, but Daniel Krasowski and Martin Crisp are going side by side. They've battled for championships in the past in the GT3 series, and now Krasowski has come out on top in that battle. 6th position in the race. Martin Crisp 7th, ahead of Nani Tavares. It's Chris Soyoung and Oliver Rodriguez Santos in 10th position, although that's side by side a little bit further back as well. Aldi just leaving around a little bit to try and break the slipstream too. They'll be side by side further back. Those big dive from Tavares into turn 5. That was very close as Cripps tried to tuck in there. Soyoung and Santos very nearly powered straight into him. Will sort themselves out though on the way towards the middle sector for the second time.
You know, racing drivers will utilize every single bit of space that they can find to gain speed from a lap, but that's why you see the curb is so elongated out of exit of corner number 5. However, sometimes you just dip those right sides into the grass and you lose all the advantage you hoped you would get from riding on the curb.
Yeah, that's absolutely. So, Garibaldi still leading the way ahead of Juan Lemus, half a second ahead. Abner Acosta, Kevin Cantonio, and Fernando Jaquez who round out the top 5. And I wonder how long these guys are going to stay single file and in this order in the top 5, because in the first race we saw a long period of single file racing where the leaders would just follow one another around. I wonder whether that will be the same in the sprint series.
Got a question for you. Sorry, I was thinking you would respond. Anyway, the top 4, with them running in the order that they started this race, do you feel like they are going to be the most patient drivers that we're going to see from the first 40-plus minutes of racing action tonight that we have seen?
Oh, yeah, that's kind of what I mean. I think they are going to be very much in that vein, whereas battling for us to watch is going to be a bit further back. This is very much what we're going to see from these guys. In fact, Bodie's trying to get away from them, actually, Garibaldi. Juan Lemus trying to follow them around. Will do, but look at this. This is where the battling is, and it involves the AM leader. Oliver Rodriguez Santos is not enjoying this because the guys behind are able to catch up as a result. It's too wide here. Santos on the outside. Chris Soyoung gets through to 9th place again. Jason Allen is queuing up in the background. They're all waving around to try and overtake each other into turn 6. It's a very different look to the top 5.
Yeah, this is certainly a good thing for this this battle that we're seeing right here as we get a replay of what happened to Keith Maines, just sliding through the kink, hits the wall. It's not too much damage, but it is a kiss on the rear right there. There's other terms for that.
Yes, that's the second spin that Maines has had today, by the way. He was also tipped around in a spin at Bill Mitchell Bend on the opening lap or 2. It's not ideal particularly. The sun continues to set here at Road America. Garibaldi continues to try and get away from the rest. It does feel a little bit different, I've got to say, from that first race. They are still running in a line, I suppose, that 5 or 4 or 5, but they are at least, or it seems to me at least, like Garibaldi's trying to get away from the rest. Tim Feliz in the first stint didn't seem to be interested at all trying to get away from the 4 behind him, but Aldi does seem to want to. He's weaving around trying to bait the slipstream. He seems to be trying quite hard. Just can't get away because of the slipstream.
Trying to. This slipstream is very, very powerful here at Road America. A lot of racetracks, you think of the, one long straightaway with maybe a couple short chutes in them. This is one of the shorter chutes right here between turns 1 and obviously we've got that weird turn 2 kink right there, and then 3, this right-hander. But this legitimately this track has 3 long straightaways, if you really want to call it the portion around the kink a straightaway, because it really is. You're at speed. That leads to cars being able to kind of make up the difference that they might lose throughout these slower corners.
Yeah, it's battles that we're seeing further behind, and even these two are not involved in it anymore. Husky and Tavares, the pick from 7th places. Maybe it's calmed down a little bit in that battle for 8th as well. Martin Crisp is leading them around now. There's that gap between the drivers in 6th and 7th position. Being very much on their own, or maybe even bridging that gap now, actually. Jaquez is not even that far ahead. There's Garibaldi getting himself away from Juan Lemus here. 3/4 of a second, very nearly, as we're approaching the end of the 4th lap in the race. He'll be leading the way around quite nicely. His search to lead this championship on his own He's not taken a win yet. You've seen wins from Daniel Krasowski and Boris Avando, both of whom have had 0-point scores in the other races so far this season. And Avando was spun around early at turn 3 as well, don't forget, so he's not had a good season. So it's been a topsy-turvy season so far, and it always is when the championship leader hasn't won a race yet.
You know, that does lead to a lot more excitement as we creep into the second third of the season. 9 races is all that these PRL seasons are now. So with one drop week still in the mix there, yes, it does maybe muddy the waters. One bad race doesn't necessarily mean the end of the world, but you do have a shorter leash on how much you can really do to gain. There's less time to be able to break away from other cars and drivers, and less time to be able to cut the gap that you might have from a couple bad races to start the year.
Ethan Bass there was very much defending on the way towards turn 1 and weaving around all over the place, trying to defend in the only Ford in the field. Was successful on that occasion. So synonymous with that Ford GT. Not everyone liked, but got to say I really appreciate him driving that classic machine, keeping it alive in iRacing almost single-handedly. As it's side by side for 8 very nearly. Seeing him try to get himself down the inside there, and Santos is looking for a way through here as well. It's outside line into Corvette and no way through. It's a very long way around the outside there and can't do it, and it's a frustrating place for Santos to be. This is 4 positions. He's trying to give himself a bigger buffer to those behind in the AM class.
Yeah, and trying to do that is going to be difficult. This is a huge collection of drivers, all within really 2 seconds of each other. 9th on back to 16th. It's a hornet's nest, as they say, but the top 4, and honestly, if you want to go back to the top 5, are really starting to put a few car lengths in between each other. It's relatively calm, but one mistake will lead to an accordion effect of coming together.
Yeah, it will. At the moment, mistakes are few and far between. Here's Santos again. He's really going through it at the moment. He's fended well from the 71 car of Jason Allen there, and holds on to a top 10 for now at least, but he really is the cork in the bottle now. He's going to let Soyung and Crisp get away if he's not too careful in the near future. Allen just weaving around, trying to find a bit of slipstream here, trying to follow Santos as best he can, who's still picking up the slipstream of those 2 in front, and so should have the legs to hold on in towards turn number 1, but makes you wonder what's going to happen here at turn 3 as Santos comes under increasing pressure.
Only 29 minutes to go in this race, and Santos with that AM lead is still holding on fairly strong, but I don't know if it necessarily provides a level of comfort that there is this big pack of cars right behind and in between he and Grulon and Becker, 2nd and 3rd in the AM class, because you still have to worry about the pressure from behind. You've got to go on the defense. You're also trying to simultaneously go on the attack, and sometimes that leaves the peripheral vision a little bit blind when you're looking straight ahead and not worried about the cars in behind.
Ethan Bass is into the top 16 by the looks of things. Nice move from him, and he's moving on up. That's a battle bit further back in the field. Meanwhile, just tries to hang on to top 10 position at the top of the AMs. Louis Grulon is 2nd in AM out of the number 4, which is Drew Becker, driving that car in 15th position overall. To Canada corner they go. No one close enough for any sort of dive at this stage. I think I can see the reason why Ethan Bass has moved up, by the way, to 16th place as well, because Emmett Lindqvist is dropping down the order with significant regularity at the moment, and Diego Ayer is also dropping down the field. I'm afraid we've seen a lot of retirements already in this race. We're already down 9. I said it was a cleaner start than in the fixed series. Well, it was for a time period, but unfortunately not once they got to the line, I suppose, but not too long after that, because that's nearly a quarter of the field gone already as well.
Abner Acosta, currently third in this race, is getting a little bit of pressure from Kevin Cantonio. Excuse me. Cantonio, of course, qualified in position number 4. What we read to you earlier was a little bit of a messy starting grid just because of where drivers finished, and they were still trying to finish out their qualifying laps. But nonetheless, the points still remain that the fastest drivers were somewhere around that top spot. None of them have really changed that many positions, though. If you're in the top 4, top 5, you're pretty much where you were to begin with. However, if you're outside of it, like we're seeing right now, 5th, 6th, and 7th, it's becoming a little bit of a battle, and this is what we love to see. The fastest cars are starting to close up with each other.
They definitely are. Welcome along to everyone in YouTube again this evening. William Brennan's got the popcorn out, so free to join. With 2/3 of this race still remaining, the real finale of the race, I guess, at that stage. It's really a waiting game at this point for the crucial pit stops to find the race in the fixed series by reducing that front group from 5 to 2. It's not quite going to do the same here, because Garibaldi is trying to get away even now, but you never know. Meanwhile, Zowski is very much defending from 5th position with Tavares and Jaquez just in behind. Then there's a bigger gap back to the to 8th place and backwards, which is where we've had most of our focus so far, because most of the overtakes have been happening there as well. But it seems that in the last 5 minutes or so, everybody's got single file a little bit. Everyone's got a little bit sensible. Everyone might be waiting for those pit stops, and we'll be on the other side of them. We really get our battles very possibly.
Hey, I like this, though. It feels like we're just building up to something big. I wonder how many of these drivers, as we see the dust pick up on the exit of 1, is pretty big. You feel like you have a little bit more space on the exit of 1 to get the charge down into that 2nd and 3rd set of corners. Same there with turn 3. I feel like we're overdriving it a little bit. These drivers are pretty much trying to get on the throttle a bit early. They see the lights in behind, and they want to keep moving. Abner Acosta, though, he is flying. He's doing a really solid job, and he's got to do that because so is Cantonio. He's doing the same thing, and everyone's bunching together just ever so slightly.
Yeah, best of the Porsches by some distance too, as Jason Allen overtakes Santos down there for 10th place. See what's... Oh dear, we didn't see this.
That's a massive incident.
So that's what happened to Lindqvist and Diego Air, and that is interesting there. I'm not sure the car that went off, and I don't know which of the two went off, but not sure that car got the space that they should have done to sort of rejoin again, and whoever was still on the circuit there could have moved to the right a little bit more to facilitate both of them and give them both space.
Yeah, that was fairly rough. We couldn't get the angle from in behind, so not sure exactly if it was just getting loose and then getting connected with each other, and an unfortunate high-speed accident right there. And nonetheless, both race enders. 38 cars in this field right now, 36 of them on the lead lap. 37th, 38th runners in Lindqvist, of course, and Chris Stort currently dealing with some problems of their own. But Baldi still leads the race with Lemus, Acosta, your podium. Cantonio, though, half a second behind Acosta. Acosta was able to match his speeds and eclipse them in sector number 3. As we look back at another incident, it's Miles Brown off course in the Lambo.
He is down at the kink, and that's going to be an awkward rejoin as well. He's up on that curb on the inside too much there. He's hit the inside wall. He's been spat out to the outside, and I think the fortunate thing for us and for everybody behind is that there was nobody behind really, or nobody particularly around, because when you crash at the kink like that, there's not really anywhere to go. It's quite a narrow part of the circuit, not only in terms of the tarmac itself, but in terms of the avoiding room. You've got the grass on either side. The walls are there to collect you very easily, so it's a blessing really that nobody was around, because they wouldn't have had anywhere to go.
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of runoff area here at Road America, even though that turn the straight out of turn 3 does narrow up underneath the bridge, but pit stops are beginning. We're not halfway through this race yet, and they're not going to take tires, so it really doesn't matter when you come in unless it works best with your the traffic you're around.
And we'll see, really, because this is a bit earlier than we saw pit stops in series, really, unless it was forced upon any of the drivers. We're not even halfway yet, and we're still a lap away from doing so. Our software believes that there'll be 20 laps in this race. I don't know if I believe that, personally. I reckon we might be closer to 19, but we'll wait and see on that one. Really feels like these battles are getting sorted now to more helpful and more efficient, streamlined single-file trains now, rather than the all-out battling we have seen so much of today. We're going to bypass the pit lane, looks like it, as we've got Drew Becker off the road now in the gravel at Canada Corner. Let's see what happened here. Is it attempting a move where it's all gone wrong here, maybe for Becker? It certainly is. It's late on the brakes and spins around despite being on the inside.
Yeah, you know what? That's a little bit of justice right there for trying to make that move. It's unfortunate, but hey, you try to make the brash move and it's only you that suffers the consequences of it. I see no more extra harm.
Well, it's him that's been affected by the looks of things. He came from an outrageously long way back, but then again, not sure how late on the brakes he was, etc. Meanwhile, Dowski just ahead of Tavares at the moment, and no pass into turn 5. That very much suggests that there's some working together here going on between Krasowski, race winner previously in this season, and Tavares as well, who's trying to catch the group up in front, but not like anybody can live with Gerger Baldi at the moment. The gap over 2 seconds, and they're not even fighting in the group for second right now.
Yeah, not really at all. I mean, really, Baldi is definitely... Oh, no! Big off right there. Oh, it's by the AM leader. Oliver Rodriguez-Santos. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, it was side by side. Saw positions changing, and there's the contact. Santos, and he's... Oh dear, don't do that.
Ow.
And he's got clipped by one of the Ferraris. He's reversed himself into the wall there to get his rear off, but that was not good at all. There was side-to-side contact, I'm afraid, but unfortunately, Santos was the one trying to push someone else off, in my opinion there. He was the one not giving quite the room that he should have done, and that's what sent his car around.
Yeah, and he made quite the meal out of that one there. It could have been a relatively simple spin into the grass, but maybe a combination of the grass being a little bit slippery and not holding on to the brakes. It led to him getting that bit of contact with the front of the car being kind of ripped off, and then obviously backing it into that wall on the outside. That's unfortunate. That leaves Grulon as the AM class leader, excuse me.
Does for the moment, and by some distance too. Here. Yeah, it really is by some distance. First pit stops that I'm confident are scheduled are beginning right now. Ethan Bass is one of those making the trip down pit lane, along with Diego Morales, the Mercedes as well. And that allows some more drivers through, including Chris Long now, who's the first driver giving chase to Louis Grillon at the front of the AM field. There is the merging early stoppers. Can Ethan Bass find himself in some clean air? It's quite important. Can he get ahead of that Ferrari? Maybe ahead of the two Porsches? Maybe. It's pretty important for his race that he does as we go on board with Cantonio now. There's been a fuel saving stint from him, and I'd imagine he'll open the taps a bit more in this second half.
Yeah, 100%. I think Antonio has made sure he didn't lose Abner Acosta over the last stretch of laps, but I'll tell you what, he was very close to passing Abner, and we talk about the patience that this top four will display as this race continues to move on, but I feel like, you know, we're more than halfway into this. These drivers still need to make their scheduled pit stops, and the podium battle is really on for each step of it. Maybe not the top step, but the second and third.
Yeah, that's what's going to be our focus, I think. Meanwhile, into the final corner. Who's going to blink first here? Well, not the leader. That was a big slide from Lemus, and when you do that and you get a bad exit onto the front straight, there's some cause for thinking, well, not just come into the pit lane, because might well just help you out, but Lemus doesn't decide to. Garibaldi continues to lead for the rear Ferrari esports team. Into turn one, the others follow. Soyung into the pit lane from that second group. Chris Soyung from the 10th place battle, around 10th place anyway. He's been involved in so much so far in this race, and that makes his way down pit lane now too. So it's still a waiting game for these guys to do it though. We're getting towards 15 minutes to go now, and the stop is going to be short. The benchmarks have already been set, just over 10 seconds or so. It's a similar length pit stop to what we saw in the fixed series.
Yeah, 100%, and they all do have restricted fuel cells. It's a little bit more fuel that these cars are able to have in the sprint series, but that also comes with the 5-minute longer race session, so it equals out into what percentage of the race they usually run out of fuel in. And we heard from some of the drivers in the fixed race about underfueling the car, maybe a mistake here or there, but it is some bit of strategy. You will save some tenths, maybe even a couple seconds by trying to underfuel the car, but then you've got to save fuel, and then that kind of leads another element into this where it can go right, can go wrong, and can change the order of things.
Here's a look at a replay further down. Jack Hiscox is going to save it. Well, that was, oh no, not quite. It was like too soon. Far too soon.
Oh, come on. Okay.
On the wall. It's okay. Well, there's going to be an incident at turn 7, which is where I thought the crash was going to be initially. That's what you see sometimes. Somebody running a bit wide through there, grabbing the grass. You spin to the wall on driver's right there, but no, he managed to delay it for another corner. That downhill braking zone into turn 8 on this, I would say, tricky middle sector, but I do feel like Road America is very much start and stop and sort of right-angled corners, to be honest with you. It's not the most flowing and technically...
You're saying it's a street course?
Well, it feels like that sometimes, doesn't it?
It does. I think it is interesting, actually, that you bring that up. I know that street courses, especially in the modern day racing of Formula One, is always all the rage. The discussions about the 90-degree angles, the turns, and it almost feels boring in a way, but I don't think 90-degree corners are bad when it's, different kinds of elevation changes, when you've got different kinds of angles in and out. I mean, this is such a unique corner right there because you have such a big runoff and then you run up the hill into another really difficult left-hand 90-degree angle. So I see what you're saying, for sure. It does not have the most flow to this track, but that's what makes your concentration so important as a race driver around here.
I feel like without that elevation change that you talk about, Road America would be a very linear and not quite exciting circuit, to be honest, because there are really not very many corners that aren't right-angled, to be honest with you. It's that turn 7 that we were just talking about. There's the carousel, which you can just see here. There's this kink as well, but other than that, there's very few on right-angled corners, which are the 15 you get around this circuit. Juan Lemus continues to lead them around. Krasowski's trying to get on terms with these guys, and he's not doing a bad job of it at all. It may be the fight for second place that entertains us in the final third of this one. 13 minutes, 20 seconds remaining, and officially 1/3 of this 40-minute race to go. When are these pit stops going to happen? We're nearly half of the way through, half an hour through this race now. Still no stops. Martin Crisp inside the top 10 ahead of Gonzalo Cortez, as now it's time to come in. It looks like we've hit our limit because the top 8 have followed one another in.
And we're going to see more drivers head into pit lane. So looks like 13 laps is pretty much the entirety of that fuel cell. I guess at that point you can also go 26 laps or so on a 100% tank of fuel here in GT3 racing. But it's going to be important. Let's see how quick these stops are. Just a couple seconds in the boxes, really all, or I should say maybe like 9-ish seconds is all they should be spending in the box right here at most. Really, really slow stop, by the way, by Baldy.
Well, he's not too bad compared to the others. It's a bit longer. A bit longer than Kevin Antonio, for example. Longer than Anaeus Tavares, who's got out in 4th place. But he's held such an advantage on the way in that he's still got 3 seconds on the way out. Cantonio is second. He's jumped Lemus, who was 6 tenths longer in the box. Tavares right behind them. Then it's Agner Acosta, who's lost 2 places. Daniel Krasowski is there. He was very much on par with everybody else. Fernando Jaquez is trying to hang on to the rest of them as well, but is a couple of seconds back in the other Ferrari. So a couple of movers and shakers there. I think the major one being Abner Acosta losing places there.
Yeah, 100%. Abner, that is not something he would have liked. However, I think we might see a bit of an Abner Acosta on the attack masterclass. He's made some mistakes in PRL Cup Series racing lately, but has recovered from them quite admirably. Can he get back into a podium position by the time that this race is all said and done? We've got around 6 or so laps remaining in here, so not a lot of time, 11 minutes and change. Can he do it? I don't know. But again, second and third, that battle, who's going to be on those podium spots? It looks like we know who will be unless Tavares is able to catch up. But is Cantonio or Lemus going to be second or third?
I don't think we know for sure just yet. It'll be pretty close, I would say. Somewhat how hard they fight for second place, because I think Juan Lemus is going to fancy that place, and it's going to cost them time to fight over this. Krasowski's been pretty strong this race too in terms of catching up to those just up ahead. And to seal the deal there is pretty difficult. Jaquez trying to hang on as well. Can't quite do it. Then it's Malagon, Allen and Carvalho to round out the top 10. There's Grillon still leading in the AM, just over 20 seconds back from the overall lead. This is Abner Acosta though. He's on the recovery drive almost in the final 10 minutes here. Should be, well, is it going to be 5 laps to go or 6? It's going to be very close is what it will be for the end of the race. Towards turn 1, Acosta gains 1/10 of a second, although those last lap times not particularly representative from that final sector time, which was a 1/10 quicker, as I say, but the lap time itself not representative because it is an out lap. This will be the first time that we really see it, but the Porsche is going to have to not worry about lap time, but instead straight line speed, and going quicker in a straight line than a Ferrari for one of those Porsches has proved difficult so far.
Yeah, that is proving to be quite difficult for them to make some moves as this race does start to reach its last moments. I feel like, Ewan, we're going to start to see more mistakes, even though these cars have kind of spaced themselves out more than we saw 20 minutes ago. The mistakes are going to compound. Look at that. You saw in the background, I believe there's a Porsche right there that went over into the grass, had to deal with the bumps and that suspension. And look at this, side by side. You can't really go too wide here and make it work all that well, but they did just that. Ain't nobody doing this, Blue.
It was close. Alex Jeremiah is going to be moving backwards pretty quickly now, though, as Boris Savando is on the recovery drive after his opening lap incident. He's back to 16th. Diego Morales is the one just behind him, and then it's Kevin Simpson in the 606 car, then Marc-Andre Garon to round up the top 20. They're all making their way through. It's side by side further back there between Simpson and Morales, who's lost some time there. Has Morales on what? Yeah, there they go. The BMW goes through in that case. So Simpson and Garon both through on Diego Morales, who I'm really not sure what's happening to him because he's nearly a second off those two now, despite being comfortably in front of them a moment ago.
Can we talk a little bit about the AM class battle? Because it's not really much of one, and the AM class leader is in 15th place. So it does show just how good some of these drivers in the pro class really are, that at least on your screen, the top 14 all in that pro class category. And Grillon currently under attack from Avando, but on your screen you see Tavares and Abner Acosta. It's definitely closed up here with 8 minutes remaining.
It has. So, by the way, we've got Grillon leading in AM. He's only 6 or 7 seconds ahead of Ardi Mercedes in second position, but that should still be a significant margin with 7 drivers between them. That's makes it all the more difficult for Grulon to lose that position at the top, but then again, you never know. Argue that Ross Sortino deserved to win in the fixed series and didn't as a result of a mistake. Meanwhile, side by side between Bass and Crisp, and that is good late braking from Ethan Bass as he tries to squeeze the Ferrari as much as possible through turn 5. He'll have to do the same at 6 and hold himself alongside so that he's not squeezed out, and now that he's done that, he needs to drive that advantage home at turn 7.
That's not good!
Well, just about does. Contact. Bass gets ahead. Here goes Gonzalo Cortez trying to overtake them both down here into turn number 8, but Bass will keep the inside for the carousel and the Ford will be up to 12th.
Wow, that's some awesome racing right here. Cortez in the middle of Bass and Crisp. We see on board with Crisp's point of view. I mean, Cortez had a lot of opportunities to force the issue and maybe go 3 wide there, but it's just not wide enough to do that safely in that section. And this run into Canada corner, we're going to have to see a move come soon, right?
Well, yes, we are. Oh, no, we're not. Cortez tried to go down the inside. He didn't do it that time around. Surprised, though. We're just over at 6 minutes to go. There in the background is a bit of trouble for one of the drivers, just following on from Grulon and Boris Ovando as well, who's closing in on these guys. It's not out of the realms of possibility that Ovando can get back to 12 here, because he did show in qualifying that he is quicker than them.
Well, qualifying is one thing, but the consistency is so necessary in moments like this. Because if you are not able to stay focused and consistent, just one-lap flyers are not going to necessarily cut it. It takes a different kind of mental fortitude to run one really fast lap and compared to 3 to 4 really fast laps under pressure.
We've also seen that there will probably be 4 laps to go, by the way, including the one that we're on at the moment. The pace quick enough for us to squeeze in 20 laps in the 40 minutes today. No, 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds for Garibaldi, and this has been a good drive from him. Going to extend or give himself a championship lead, if you like. I'm not really sure what the countback is for the moment, by the way, between the two of the drivers. Suppose it doesn't matter at this stage, but they're absolutely dead level at the moment. Garibaldi, though, might be on his way to his first race win of the season as the fight for 12 gets ever more interesting. The wide Ford of Ethan Bass hanging on again.
Yeah, Bass is doing all he can. I mean, that was a complete, just chaotic moment last lap at that corner, and he's still holding the slimmest of advantages on 12th place, or for 12th place. This has opened the door for Crisp and Grulon as well as Ovando to just kind of have an opportunity to break into the top 12, and I believe 11th is out of the picture, but a move into Canada corner for Cortez is definitely in the cards. Gets to the outside here. Are they going to make it stick?
Let's see. Round the outside for Cortez. Oh, and there's very nearly contact between them as well. Pass on the outside for the penultimate turn. Should hang on and does. Cortez gave it a go, and now he's under pressure. That's the danger, and that's why everyone is so discouraged to have a go at Ethan Bass here, because there's drivers following behind. You've got Martin Crisp in 14th place. Then you've got Lewis Grulon, the AM leader, just in 15th. Boris Ovando's there as well. Once you took out of line, though, you lose the effect of the slipstream, and all of a sudden you fall back. Grulon's looking the closest here, maybe, to a move at turn number 1. Will there be one from him or Ovando? No. They all single file into turn 1.
You know, it's so hard if you're in Grulon's perspective, because you're only getting points for where you finish overall, but you don't want to throw away this AM class win. What's more important, the win of the AM class or the points you get from overall? I'd argue it's overall points, so you've got to go for it. It's right in front of you. This opportunity is here, and Ethan Bass is going to try and make that machine as wide as possible.
Yeah, I think Grulon's got to go for it as well. Let's see if he does, as it's side by side a bit further back. Here goes Ovando. He's going to have to go for it. Grulon's been almost forced into it because Martin Crisp was a bit slow on the inside, but it's Grulon who gets it wrong, and Ovando's on the outside here into Corvette, and it's going to be Alex de Almeida as well. I don't think he agrees with you, Dylan, to be honest with you. He seemed to let those two positions go.
That is intriguing. If you look at the championship at the end of the year, though, it's all about those overall points that kind of brace themselves out in the AM class. But we go back to this battle for 6th. Krzyzewski and Jaquez. It's good.
It's 6th position for these two in terms of the battle. 1.5 seconds separate Garibaldi and Kevin Cantonio at the front of the field, by the way, about to start their penultimate laps of the day. Just a few seconds ahead of these two. There is Garibaldi. Well, is he going to get to the line with the white flag, or is it going to be the final lap? I was sure until a few minutes ago. Well, that looks like a white flag waving to me. Is it? Well, 2:04 remaining. He just did a 2:05.
It looks it.
So
yeah,
maybe that is the last lap, or this is the last lap. But it was only a white flag waving. It looked like to me there for Garibaldi. So it might just be one time round.
and I think he wants it to be one time around because Cantonio is within a second and a half now of giving a second lap to try and make a move. That would be quite close. I'm not sure if you saw a finish that happened at the Nordschleife this past weekend, but car tried to slow down, didn't want to go the next lap around the Nordschleife and timed race. It would have been another 8 minutes, almost 9 minutes there to do it. And actually, by just a few hundredths, gave up the win of the race by slowing down and having that be the last lap. And that's not a situation when you find yourself in.
I will be honest, I've only did that once before.
I mean, I'm not ever in a position to do that. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I really am as well, but one of the times I was, I nearly threw it away.
What was the gap?
To battle hard on the last lap for a win, when I really didn't require it. Very good. It's never advisable, is it? I don't actually think that's what's been happening, to be honest with you. I think 2:05 is maybe just a bit of an off lap, although that is very slow for him, isn't it, Garibaldi, I suppose. He's back to 2-minute 4.0s now, and I feel like if he was slowing down to make it the last lap, he would continue at a slower pace, but he seems to be back up to speed now.
Just hope he hasn't made a miscalculation of any sort. I don't think he has. I think he'll cross the line with a second and a half or 2 seconds minus, I should say, off the clock. At that point, should get the win here and should get the checkered.
We'll see if he does, but I think it will be pretty close. If it was real life, they'd certainly call it, but it's iRacing, of course, and it's computer automated, so we'll wait and see as the seconds tick down. Garibaldi has dominated today for the Scuderia Ferrari esports team, and he will be shown the checkered flag. He flashes the lights to acknowledge the fact, and he takes the win in round 3 of the PRL GT3 Sprint Series. Dominant display from him in the end. None of this fuel-saving long train at the start of the race. He took the lead from the beginning. He dominated, he got out to an early lead, and he held it all the way home.
Yeah, it was just a solid run for him, and you know, it's funny, the wins of both races came from drivers who stayed up there the entire time and showed some composure in very stressful situations. You had cars very close and charging after you in the closing laps, and still, they won it, and that's a major kudos to them at a very difficult racetrack to get any bit of rhythm.
Get his congratulations from the fellow Ferrari drivers who will give him a nudge on the way past. As the drivers end their day, Abner Acosta will be the first non-Ferrari in 5th position by the looks of that. What other battles have we got going on toward the line at the moment? Pretty much none of them, actually. Looks like the remainder of the drivers will go over the line single file of those at least who get to the end of the day. Lots of retirements, and those who won't see the checkered flag, including 12 drivers at the very back. We'll look at the first of them, though, and Garibaldi wins the race by 1.6 seconds in the end. Kevin Cantonio in second, ahead of Juan Lemus, who will definitively be second in the championship now, ahead of Nadia Tavares. And Abner Acosta, the only non-Ferrari inside the top 10. Janu Krasowski held off Fernando Jaquez to the line, with Juan Malagan getting to 8th. Jason Allen and Matias Carvalho round out the top 10. In 11th position, it was Chris Soyoung, ahead of the only Ford in the field, of course, and the second non-Ferrari, interestingly, Ethan Bass. Gonzalo Cortez finishes 13th, ahead of Martin Crisp, with Boris Ovando 15th. Alex de Almeida both getting through on Luis Grillon, the AM winner, who didn't want any part of that battle towards the end. Marc-Andre Garin couldn't take the position, neither could Kevin Simpson, as Audi Mercedes took second in the AM class. David Mendonca was 21st, with Drew Becker on the podium in AM. Chris Long and Andre Bernati running out the top 5 in that class, with Eric Starpoli running out the top 25. It was next up for Byron Daly, and Nestor Santana, Diego Air, who recovered from that incident, ahead of Diego Morales, the last driver within a minute. Keith Maines, round out the top 30. Then it was Richard Saavedra, Sean Murphy and Devin Brock to round out those on the lead lap, followed by Chris Stewart and Eric Lindqvist, who did see the checker flag, and then those who didn't, including Adam Hedgecock, Miles Brown, Oliver Rodriguez Santos, who was leading AM at one time, Hector Alvarez and Miguel Colon, all inside the top 40, and the rest of them, Ray Dominguez, Chase Wilson, Arden Young, Rich Calais, Jeremy Littleton, Ethan Hodgson and Douglas Curry, most of whom retired on the opening lap of the day. Well, that is it for your racing here tonight. Let's have a quick chat with some of the drivers. First of all, starting with Gergo Baldi, and I'm not sure he can hear us at the moment, to be honest with you. Because he's deafened himself. Oh, here we go. We might be able to speak to our race winner now. Gergo, welcome in. Good to have you with us again. A race win for you for the first time this season and a definitive championship lead after 3 rounds as well. How did you find the race at Road America here tonight?
Yeah. Have a good day, everyone. Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, it might look boring, but yeah, I had to manage the fuel. I had to watch for the lap times because I wanted to go, 1 lap more. But then at the end, I made a mistake. So yeah, my plan wasn't that successful. But yeah, still I could win the race, luckily. So yeah, I'm pretty happy.
Well, because you were leading by such a margin by the pit stops, I actually thought you weren't doing any fuel saving in that first stint. Just how much of a factor was the fuel in that race?
It was a lot because there's been a little bit more fuel consumption on this server than during the practices. So yeah, I made the calculation before the practice, and I had to readjust it a little bit because the consumption was a little bit more. So yeah, I had to save quite a lot of fuel in the first stint, but yeah, I could break the draft behind me, so I could I was able to do that fuel saving in a pretty calm way.
Well, very interesting and very well done to you. Congratulations on the win, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thank you very much, and congrats for the others. They were really quick. So yeah, I need to pick up the pace next time because it could have been a lot more different if they didn't battle that much behind me. So yeah, congrats for them.
Certainly, that was Gergo Baldi, the race winner here tonight from Road America in the Pro Class. Second place on the day was Kevin Cantonio, who joins us now as well. Welcome in as well, Kevin. Good to have you with us. And the battle for second was a very interesting one today. It felt to me as if it was settled during the pit stops. Where do you think it was won and lost?
It was definitely in the pit stops. So we lost. We had the draft with Gergo in the beginning, but we just lost it mid-race and never caught back up. And I knew there was no chance to really fight for first anymore, other than like fueling an extra lap or a lap less, which I couldn't risk. But I was able to save a lot behind Abner, and that really helped in the pits.
It felt like during the first stint that's what it was all about, and unfortunately for us we didn't really see you guys go to battle so much in the second stint. How confident were you to hang on to that third place in the end?
I felt pretty confident. I would have had to fuel save towards the end, but I saw Gergo slow down actually because he fueled a lap less. So I knew I could just go full out. I tried catching him. I think I set the fastest lap, the second to last lap, but it wasn't enough. There was too much of a gap.
He was certainly closing quickly at the end. Didn't quite go an extra lap for you though. Congratulations on second place here tonight, Kevin, and thanks for chatting to us too.
Thank you.
Very much. That's Kevin Cantonio, second place here today in the GT3 Sprint Series. Well, that's just about going to do it for us here tonight in our coverage of Precision Racing League's GT3 night, if you like, here on RaceSpotTV. Next time out, we'll be going to Monza. It's going to be very different, I think, Dylan, going to Monza than what we saw here today. Maybe a few more fuel games, and maybe those fuel games are going to persist for the next few weeks, actually, with Le Mans coming up after that. But the first chicane are always a big talking point at Monza, and maybe Le Mans as well. It's very different to the technical challenge of Road America 2.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like, Monza is a little bit shorter than Road America. It might lead to a little bit more congestion, especially with the distinctly fewer corners that you get at Monza. And I just wonder, the high speed, the slipstream is going to play a part. There's a lot more just, I don't want to say easy passing zones as compared to Road America, but the lack of elevation for the most part is definitely going to play a factor at Monza. And I do wonder if we're going to have the same amount of cars race in there, because if we get fields of 42 and 47, that's going to be extremely solid and will make for a fun watch and a fun show to share with you all.
Exactly, so I hope that you will join us for that as well. Big thanks to everyone who's been tuned in here tonight. So make sure that you see us again next week, 8:30 Eastern, for that final race, or for that next race, excuse me. The final race still a long way away in these GT3 series. That's about it from us tonight, though. I hope you've enjoyed the coverage here from Road America. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Dylan Coy, with Ramiro Agustin Cisneros behind the cameras for this round of the championship. Until we see you in 1 week's time at Monza, or indeed tomorrow night for more Precision Racing League action here live on RaceSpotTV. Goodbye for now.